Nick McKenzie here. If you have something to say to me, give me a call.
Operator K arced him up.
Arcing up is slang for... No weapon or radio can be seen. The Afghan is compliant and quiet on the ground. Soldier C trains his weapon on the Afghan from very close range.
God, I love that fucking song. Gets me harder than the fucking driveway. Welcome back, cunts. Oh, here we go again. So, yeah, had a lot of good feedback from the last one. And Saddam's pool party, kind of infamous. Now, probably the most famous poo that's ever been taken in Australian history. Because we don't have an Amber Heard equivalent. I think the closest thing would probably be allegedly old ScoMo, who just lost the election. Did a shit in Engadine Macca's, I think shit his pants around 1997, but who hasn't shit their pants outside of McDonald's when they've been on the piss, especially on a grand final night. So, you know, hey, shit happens. Oh, and speaking of that, I am just coming off the back of a bout of gastro, and holy moly, it got me good. There's a new little Mexican restaurant opened up near my place. Decided I'd get a little chicken quesadilla, as you do. And, yeah, about 2 hours later, just shitting fucking ass piss. Ass piss as far as you could see. You know it's a bad shit when it's just piss. And, yeah, I was hurling up all night. I think 3 or 4 fucking vomits. And then, yeah, I had about a fucking whole 24 hours just laying on the couch feeling sorry for myself like I've been on a bender. But I hadn't even had a fucking beer. So, pretty devastating. But... positive note, did shred up. Am looking pretty fucking good right about now. So, yeah, there's a lot of people on Instagram. A lot of those Insta thoughts are selling fucking, I don't know, training programs and fucking CrossFit, how to shred and whatnot. Well, just get gastro. Just don't eat for a couple of days and you'll be fucking shredded in no time. That's what boxers and fighters do to drop weight before a fight. Just stop having liquids. You might die if you go a bit too far. Look at all those shitty little kids in Africa that fucking managed to survive that famine. Well, a lot of them didn't survive. But the ones that did, it's like it just shows how resilient, kids are. You don't actually need food and whatnot. And yeah, I know on selection that I can go fucking a couple of days without, food or sleeping and know that I'm still short. So we good, fam. But yeah, haven't done a solid poo yet in a couple of days, but I'm hoping that'll fucking sort itself out eventually. I think my body's pretty resilient, and it's still got a whole bunch of bacteria and fucking all sorts of random shit all through it from Iraq and Afghanistan. So I find it very hard to get sick these days due to eating and living like a fucking peasant, or living like a Middle Eastern person for the majority of my 20s. So you don't see them getting sick too often. They die young, but that's generally because they blow themselves up. That's why their life expectancy is so short. It's not necessarily because they live like fucking heathens. It's because they hit their 20s and they're like, well, fuck, man. All these chicks are absolutely minging. There's no nightclubs. I can't go out and drink and ramp it with the boys. It fucking sucks. I live in a dirt hut. I'm just going to go blow myself up. So, fair enough, mate. Fair enough. But now we can fucking start talking about what happened up in Mosul. So how did we fucking get there? This is the greatest fucking, I would say the greatest military campaign that our country, Australia, has been involved in since probably the Korean War. Because there was a lot of other little conflicts that kicked off here and there. But really since World War II and then the Korean War, we haven't really fucking won much. It feels like the fucking New South Wales State of Origin team about 10 years ago. We're just getting pumped. And we were fighting in a lot of campaigns and involving ourselves in all these little conflicts like Somalia and, whatever happened in Rwanda, East Timor, the early Iraq wars and whatnot, Afghanistan, obviously. But we didn't really, I can't really say we won. I mean, we won on a personal level. I feel like I won because I got to come home and live with my family and, start families and fucking have a good time, live our best life, go to the beach every day, sink a milo every morning, when a lot of the Afghans that I met in the rural villages and valleys around Tarankout are dead, now. So, I only got to catch up with them when I was standing over their dead corpse. So, Mosul was like the greatest fucking military achievement of our generation and probably of our parents' generation as well. But no one wants to talk about it for some reason because in the current climate, everyone's so scared of fucking reliving their experiences from their service because, some fucking sook somewhere is going to whinge about it and say, oh, that might have been a war crime. No, it wasn't, cunt. It's just war. There's no crimes. There's just fucking war. So, I think that some of the people that died in Afghanistan, if they had lived right now, would have been accused of fucking war crimes. I'm sure, we all think fucking, say, Cam Baird, what a fucking hero, what a fucking weapon. What he did was so fucking brave and insanely fucking good. The pinnacle of soldiering to keep a mate that had been shot in the leg. And the only way that he could, ensure the safety of his mate and his oppo and his friend, another team leader that's been shot, is to bail these 8 cunts up in a compound and just continuously pie the door and shoot cunts in the head until he himself was killed. Now I wasn't there and I don't know the dude. I remember once I held a door open for him and got a bit of stink eye from him because, I was a SIG and he wasn't. But, from all accounts, fucking weapon. And, pieing the door, shooting cunts in the face, having a stoppage. And generally, when you have a stoppage, the drill would be for someone else in your team behind you in the stack to get their weapon up in the workplace, in their workspace, and crack on and take over from you. Your only other option there is really to pull your pistol out and start engaging with that. But Beardy was like, nah, boys, I got this. I've got an MG for this in the past. I think I know what I'm doing. And just kept plying the door, shooting heaps of cunts in the fucking head until he was ultimately killed. So it just shows, the amount of trust that the dudes behind him had in him. And, to let him continuously re-engaging without sharking him, which is a term for, if you're coming to the door or the fatal funnel that you're assaulting at the same time as someone else. When we're on our reinforcement cycle, you learn about the term sharking, and that is essentially giving the cunt a nudge that's next to you to try and get in front of him. Now, you've got a live barrel with a fucking a round up the spout next to your head, but you're still trying to get in front of that cunt's gun because you want to be first in that door to kill the threat on the other side. You don't want your mate. And it's not about like, oh, I don't want him to go first because he might get killed. I'd rather take... No, it's about you going in the door first so you can shoot that cunt in the head before your mate does. Because it's a competition. He who enters first killeth the first cunt. I believe that's what the Padre said at some point down at 2 Commando. Or it might have just been H. So yeah... Betty, what a fucking weapon. He's just pieing doors, killing cunts, and then ultimately killed and received Australia's greatest honour, being the Victoria Cross. And I dare say if he had lived, at some point, some cunt, some little fucking weasel in his platoon, because there's always one, would have said, nah, I'm pretty sure Betty committed a war crime on that day because one of those people inside that room was unarmed. Fuck up, you dumb cunt. So that's what we see in the media right now with RS and the SAS guys and a couple of ice addicts from 2 Commando that thankfully took themselves out of life themselves before one of the boys could catch up with them because, cunts are just fucking jealous haters. So, bit of a tangent there. Anyways, so a lot of people don't want to talk about what happened in Afghan and I guess a little bit with Iraq because they're scared of what may happen and scared that someone will pick apart their story and say, well, that was actually a war crime. You can't do that. But this is one of the greatest stories of our, since our nation forming and our military becoming a revered, well-respected, probably before that Four Corners episode, a well-respected organization around the world, and our SOF has got a mad rep throughout the SOF community. Despite all these allegations and rumors, everyone still wants to work with us because for a small FE, we're fucking pound for pound some of the best fighters that arguably you would come across in a tier 1 or tier 2 organization. So when Iraq kicked off, and we've talked about how we got there and how Rotation 1 went and how we established a presence out in our Al Assad Air Base, and then I left. And for the next couple of years, the boys, so we had the shooters, the 079 commando operators over in the Baghdad Iraqi Counterterrorism Service, or ISOF as they're known, brigades, raising, training, and sustaining their combat capability, being their anti-terrorism police that were going to kind of, the guys that were all black, the guys that were going to actually take back cities from ISIS. So they're actually separate from the Iraqi army. They actually come directly under the Iraqi prime minister. They're his own personal asset. So they're a bunch of fucking sick cunts. And if you Google them, the very first thing that comes up about ISOF or the Iraqi Counterterrorism Service is that they're famous for war crimes. Did we not learn anything from Afghanistan and partnering up with MK and fucking watching him skin people alive to punish them? No. Our higher echelons in our defense force decided to partner with the biggest war criminals in Iraq. But they were good at doing the job, so that's okay. Turns out it's happy to turn a blind eye to that one, wasn't it? Australian government. Good on yous. But they were sick cunts. So the boys around rotation 2 and 3, when I'm back home on tag doing that thing that we talked about in the last episode, I know some of the companies, I think Alpha, Delta, and then Bravo, were over there teaching these cunts how to pie doors like Beatty was, so that they could eventually take back their country from ISIS. So they're training the guys in Baghdad, and then those guys that finish their training cycles, the Iraqis, would then get put into the fight, which was starting around Fallujah and Ramadi, which is on the Anbar Desert, the western side of Iraq, heading away from Baghdad, heading out towards Syria, or Surya as they call it. So it was all going down. Then obviously you've got the SOA guys, the engineers, the JTACs, the intelligence staff, human intelligence. They're all working fucking their asses off to get ready because the Iraqi counterterrorism service has been told you cunts have got to clear Ramadi. Now, remembering back to way back when I said that all of the Canadian and US soft dudes are still up in Kurdistan working with the Kurds, trying to push ISIS out of Kurdistan up in the north. So everyone's still focused on that, and no one's really taking much attention or putting too much thought towards what the Aussies were doing in Baghdad with the ISOF boys. But the Iraqi Prime Minister said, time to take back Fallujah, cunts, just like the US Marines did in the surge back in the day with Chris Kyle. So our boys start clearing Ramadi. And how do they clear Ramadi? Well, you've got American air assets controlled by Australian JTACs and combat controllers sitting in Baghdad and a place called Al Taqadum, TQ, out in the west of Iraq, dropping bombs like it's going out of fashion. So they're leveling this fucking city, the closest thing to total war that we've had since World War II. They're just leveling an urban city again. It wasn't like the Marines clearing Fallujah where they went house to house. And, you know, obviously they took a lot of casualties, a lot of IEDs. It looked fucking hectic, to be honest. But we learn a lot of lessons from that, where we just send the Iraqis in because it's their fucking country, first of all. And then we don't get killed, but we still achieve the same result by just using superior air power, dropping bombs on cunts. Whenever they get bogged down, we're just dropping bombs on houses. And when I say we, I mean Task Group 632, not me personally, because I'm assaulting the Scooby-Doo ride on tag. So the boys are fucking killing it, and the Iraqi ISOF dudes are clearing through Ramadi, and this is when the everyone starts to take notice in the soft community in Iraq, like, hang on a minute, why are all the air assets from up north in Kurdistan being redirected to Fallujah and Ramadi. It's because the Aussie partner force is sweeping the streets of Fallujah and Ramadi like street sweepers, and just absolutely annihilating the enemy, killing hundreds, if not thousands, of ISIS fighters and making those little rats flee, continuously bound back up to the north towards their caliphate headquarters, which is Mosul. So when I got to Iraq in 2016, so well, to go back a bit, prior to that happening, I was on that tag fucking situation, and that ended, and we knew that we're going back to Iraq, so my company is rolling back over again. But before we went, a pretty significant moment happened in my life between tag ending and deploying again on rotation 6, was that old Skojo was getting married. So I was meant to have some big fuck off wedding in 2017 down on Ostermere Beach in fucking New South Wales, because that's where all the cunts from Campbelltown used to go. Every afternoon when we'd jig school, we'd head down to Osty Beach. So I was going to get married down there like everyone from Campbelltown does. And I was frothing. I was kind of looking forward to it. But I didn't really want 6 months when I'm in Iraq dropping bombs on ISIS fighters, thinking about what color flowers I wanted at my wedding when I returned. So what I decided was, let's just fucking square this away real quick. Just do a shotgun wedding in my parents' backyard. And, that'll be sweet. So then we can focus on, winning a fucking war. And my missus is pretty happy with that, because she was like, yeah, fair enough, Skojo. You got to go win that war. Let's just fucking quickly smash this out and we'll get it done. So the biggest significant moment that happened at that wedding was that one of the shooters, the same shooter that knocked that dude's head off in Patan, the old fucking headshot actual, that his kids later went on and fucking tried to scoop his brains into the back of his head. Well, that same dude got a headshot at my wedding. So my parents have like a 3-story tiered wooden balcony at the back of their house. And all of the boys are up on like the top levels, Snapchatting and whatnot. And the Padre's down there. Literally the Padre. Got the Padre from the base out for $300 fucking dollary dues. And he was my celebrant. And then I got about 3 or 4 of those green army 6-handle trunks, filled them with as many VBs as they could fit, and then put some ice on them. That's the wedding. I think it cost me about 2 or 3 grand all up. How you fucking going? And so the boys are all up on the top level, and then just as like the ceremony's kicking off and everyone's taking photos and whatnot, old Headshot McGee drops his phone because he's half cut, and you hear that sound. When you hear a phone drop, everyone kind of turns around and thinks the same thing, like, oh my God, I hope his screen's okay. So you hear that sound of a phone dropping on like a wooden balcony. But then it kept going. So everyone down on the third, the ground floor, 3 stories below, looks up like, oh my God, someone dropped their phone up there. And my mum's standing there, and the dude's phone falls 3 stories and smacks her square in the nose. So mid-ceremony, my mum's nose gets just busted by one of the shooters from Charlie Company. And, needless to say, she was in the locker. I think anyone get punched in the nose, no matter how tough you are, it's really annoying. You start fucking tears welling up in your eyes, and you get a little bit of a bloody nose. And, I know I've been punched in the nose a lot of times, and it'll probably continue to happen throughout my life. But, so then I kind of had to forget about that. And I went off to take some photos with the new bride, and down at the beach. And when I came back, all the mothers and my aunties and everyone is just crowding around my mum. She's laying on the couch with like a bag of peas on her nose. And that shooter was just kind of just feeling horrible for himself. And my parents told me that they still see him like sometimes down at IGA doing the shopping or whatnot, and he's just constantly apologizing for that moment, which happened fucking 6 years ago. But anyways, we're back over and I'm about to go to Iraq. And the moment I get there, I meet up with the old partner force that I was there with on the first rotation. That most of the shooters and most of the operators, because they're too cool for school, had paid them off for the last few years. So everyone on my last deployment when I left Al Assad Air Base, I think 2 or 3 guys had ISIS flags. That was kind of the coolest thing you could get at the time, was like, I've got an ISIS flag from a dead ISIS fighter. That's fucking sick. Like a Nazi flag after World War II. If you think about it, in 1940 or 1941, not many dudes would have had Nazi flags. But by 1945, 46, after the war, every cunt that fought over in, if you didn't have a Nazi flag and you're claiming to be an Aussie World War II vet, what the fuck were you actually doing, cunt? Ask your grandpa that. So I had an ISIS flag, and a couple of the fucking key enablers did, because they were the ones liaising with the partner force the most, not just reading their Kindle inside their housing unit like most of the boys were. You know, the heavy hitters, the support staff members, the ones doing all the work, were obviously highly rewarded. So I kept in touch with the partner force that were outside the base, the old Ehab and his little fucking Iraqi SWAT unit. So when I get back to Iraq, I pull out the old burner phone that I had from Rotation 1, try to call the cunt, and he answered. The cunt's still alive. First of all, that's very surprising. And second of all, he tells me he's still in the fight. And he goes, oh, hey man, by the way, all those, the dudes that replaced your company on the second rotation down in Al Assad Air Base, they didn't want anything to do with me. They were too busy tanning and building a fucking jacuzzi out of an upside down rainwater tank. So I've got this shopping bag full of ISIS flags. Do you guys still want them? Yeah, cunt. So he drove from Al Assad Air Base down through around Fallujah Ramadi, risked his own life through all the police checkpoints and everything, got all the way into Baghdad, Bayat, BDSC, and they stopped him at the Bayat sort of airport security gates. And I went out there with some boys and an interpreter and got a bag full of fucking ISIS flags. And it just goes to show how fucking, so many dudes between Rotation 1 and Rotation 6 wanted ISIS flags. All they had to do was speak to this cunt and that I introduced them to, but they were too cool for school. So that happened. Got all those flags. So within the first week of being in Iraq on my second rotation, everyone in the FAS-C, which is like the intelligence, fusion and support and analysis kind of area within the task group in Baghdad, every cunt's got an ISIS flag. And one of the flags had blood splattered all over it. And that was just adds to the flavor. So, fucking hell, man. All the dudes, and at this point, still a lot of the shooters still in their rooms, doing nothing, just reading Kindles. And they're just like, how the fuck do you guys all have ISIS flags already? I ain't got to go speak to Skojo, mate. So, then they start talking to me. I start getting them in touch with the contacts that I had out in the fray, and the wheels started turning. But for that first couple of weeks, I was actually stuck in Baghdad. And other than dealing ISIS flags, wheeling and dealing, I was bored as fuck. Because my role on that rotation is that I'd been put into a corporal position. So I was still only a lance piss, had one hook, didn't even want it, just wanted to be a digger for life. But the way that the military works is, once you've done a couple of deployments and you've kind of been in for, I don't know, however many years at this point, 8, 9 years or so, they wanted me to promote because really I should be heading towards higher corporal, heading towards sergeant at this point in my career, but I didn't want that. I went down the selection and special forces path to go, because I didn't give a fuck about rank. I just want to deploy and be at the coalface with the boys. So the last thing that I wanted was to become a corporal and sent to Iraq as a corporal and be in a managerial det commander position in Baghdad while I had my mates and my little diglets out and about doing their thing with the special forces advisory teams all around Iraq. That's because I felt that I should be out there still. So I'd done selection in 2012, and by 2016, 4 years later, I'm off the tools. Fuck that noise. I still want to be, it took me a good 3 years almost to do all my lead up training, selection, the reinforcement cycle, coming back and re-attacking it the next year, only for 2 deployments later to be taken off the tools and promoted. So that was fucking annoying to me, and I was starting to see that, like, fuck, what was it all worth it? Was, like, I could have just posted in, not done selection, and I probably would have got another 2 deployments in before they promoted me. So there was some fucking hard questions I was asking myself, because I was starting to hate my job because I wasn't out with the boys anymore. I was in the headquarters, and it was okay. I mean, we were still developing targets that we won't get into, because obviously it's a bit more sensitive when you're talking about the headquarter, higher echelon skiff levels of targeting. But it was still fun to kill people and to find out where someone lives and drop a bomb on their house at 3 a.m. and kill them and their whole family. That was still fun, don't get me wrong. But, you know, I kind of would have been rather out there with the boys, you know, wheeling and dealing ISIS flags in the desert. Fucking COVID. So that was where my head was at this point in time. And all the Iraqi partner force were telling me that I knew from my last deployment was like, the Aussies are the sickest cunts in the world. And I was like, why do you I know that, but why do you think that? You've never been to Bondi Beach. You've never seen an Australia Day in Cronulla. You've never been to a Ute muster. You've never been to Denny. How the fuck do you know about Australia other than seeing a footage of fucking David Attenborough talking about some kangaroos in the wild? So they start to tell us that we were the ones that supported them in Ramadi. So they're just spinning, the Iraqis just jerking each other off, telling Ramadi worries 24/7. And obviously that's because we'd enabled them and they were our partner force during the clearance of Ramadi. Now what they didn't realize is that almost every single plane that was above them dropping bombs time and time again, that whole rotation, which was rotation 3, the whole time that was happening, they were American aircraft. Maybe the odd British or Canadian or French fucking aircraft, and the odd Aussie Kelpie call sign in there as well. But for the most part, it was just Aussie JTACs and combat controllers getting those bombs on target. So when the Iraqi partner force were radioing through to our TOC or our partner force in Al Taqadum, requesting an airstrike because they're pinned down, and they speak to an Aussie voice, and then, you know, a couple of minutes later they see that compound that they're being engaged from get turned into fucking rubble, they think it's the Aussies, which, you know, in a way it is. But really the only person, you know, I probably talk about a lot where we got a lot of kills and we got a lot of strikes and blah blah blah, the only person who actually gets that kill is the pilot. You know, the JTAC doesn't get a kill out of that unless he physically shoots some cunt in the head. You're not getting a kill, so we don't refer to that as a kill. But, you know, in a way you kind of give yourself a pat on the back because you got that round off that enabled the death of a whole bunch of people held up inside of a building. So the Iraqis are like, you Aussies were killing every cunt. You killed so many people in Ramadi that it was just phenomenal, that we want to work with you forever. So then all the American soft units, the SEALs and the ODAs, CRIF, the TAG, everyone that was American that was soft in the country that is seen as the pinnacle are taking a backward step to listen to fucking worries about the Aussies dropping bombs in support of ISOF in the middle of the desert in Ramadi. So the Americans are like, well, hang on a minute, they're fucking our assets. So then the Americans were given, they were kind of, the Kurdish up north had reached their limit of exploitation where they'd taken back the land that ISIS had taken from them, you know, around Kobani and those kind of areas. So they got to this certain kind of natural terrain marker where they've historically owned that land, and they just fucking put those berms in on the top of the hills and just were facing out. And they weren't moving forward anymore. So all of the American soft and Canadian soft that were up north are like, well, fuck, if they're not moving anymore, and all we're doing is sitting here waiting for ISIS to come and have a crack at us, which would happen every now and then, what else can we do? So they wanted to come and steal our partner force, the Iraqi ISOF boys. But the ISOF boys are like, haha, no. The Aussies are the boys that cleared Ramadi. So then eventually, for my deployment, the SEALs, I think SEAL Team 5, were then given an Iraqi brigade, maybe like the second ISOF brigade or the first, one of the two. And we would take, say, the first ISOF brigade, and they would take the second ISOF brigade. So the SEALs had them, we had the other one, and then we would joint unilaterally have this task force that would just hunt down the rest of the cunts that were alive in Iraq, generally around the caliphate in Mosul. So the SEALs are sitting there like, well, we kind of, our American air assets did all this work for you guys. You kind of got to give us something, because these SEALs out here want to fucking get busy. So I'm down in Baghdad. I'm still trying to work out like what's changed between rotation 1 when I left this fucking shithole and what's going on right now. And I'm listening to all this infighting and who wants like people trying to take our partner force, but our partner force being like, fuck you, we're good to go, let's go to Mosul. So it's all kind of happening. And during the last couple of months, there was this air base up to the north, just south of Mosul in the north of Iraq, called Al-Qayyara, which is known as Q West. And Q West was used by the American military throughout, their other Iraq wars. But what had happened was ISIS actually had control of that base. That was one of the bases that you would see in the ISIS propaganda videos, where ISIS rolled through that base, captured all the soldiers, made them dig their own graves, and then shot them in the head. So not ideal. And then that base had to be taken back. So the ISOF boys, once they'd cleared Ramadi and they kept pushing north along the Euphrates River Valley, all the way up to, and they got to Qayyara, they were fighting ISIS on their own Iraqi military bases to get the base back. So pretty hectic, because obviously ISIS are pretty well dug in. And one of the Americans, when they actually took that base back and cleared it all, you can imagine it's an Iraqi air base. It's fucking huge. It was filled with just rubble, all the buildings. So our JTACs had dropped the buildings on the base, like the terminals and whatnot, were all being used by ISIS. So we had to blow them up with our own aircraft, blowing up our own Iraqi air bases to kill ISIS. And then one of the Americans actually stood on an IED that ISIS had in place inside the airbase, and he got pretty fucked up. So I got told eventually that, hey, we've cleared the area in Q West, and we've got Aussies up there. So the guy that you're taking over from, he's actually currently based up in Qayyara. So my friend, a good friend of mine, from Rotation 5 with, I think it was Delta Company or fucking, I don't know. He's up there just living his best life. And the base in Qayyara was actually only a few, or probably not a few kilometers, but like, let's say 20 kilometers or so from the burning oil fields that ISIS had set on fire years ago when the war had kicked off, and no one was able to get in there and stop that fire because it was controlled by fucking ISIS. So for the most part, the wind would always come from the west and blow that smoke towards, Iran, which is fine. But every now and then, like once a fortnight, the winds would shift and blow onshore. And what would kind of happen was there's fucking plumes of black smoke. Like you've seen, if you Google like Iraqi oil fires Gulf War, the sky is black. And that is exactly how it looks. So I'm sitting there like sitting on top of a HESCO barrier, just eating my fucking MRE lunch, looking out from Qayyara out to the east. And there's just oil fields pissing black, thick smoke like clouds out of the ground 24/7. So then you talk about like global warming and shit, and like, we're trying to stop fucking plastic straws here because some turtle got on the fucking gear and got a fucking straw stuck up its nose. Now when I go to Macca's, I got to drink out of a fucking cardboard straw like a fucking peasant. But then I'm sitting in Iraq looking out at the Iraqi oil fields that have been burning for 7 fucking years, 24/7, just pumping out this black, thick fucking tar smoke into the atmosphere. It kind of looked like downtown Shanghai. So I'm just thinking, like, what the fuck are we doing? But yeah, so I got sent up there obviously because I kept complaining in Baghdad, like, this is fucking shit, man. What am I doing here? I'm just sitting, I would rock up to work every day at like, say, 7 a.m., leave at fucking 7 p.m. at night, just typing into a keyboard, trying to find cunts to kill based off, higher level reporting. But what I really wanted to do was that lower level reporting where someone's talking physically about me or the boys and we get to kill them then and there. So I complained for about 3 or 4 weeks straight, and eventually someone said, righto cunt, fucking sick of your whinging, Scojo. No, you just want to smell some fucking cunts fucking insides that have been turned out. I know you're having withdrawals from 2 years ago where you're just fucking digging mass graves with the Iraqis. Off you go, cunt. You can go up to Kayara and replace this dude that's ripping out and going home because he's fucking sick of breathing in black smoke all the time, living in that tent that he's living in. So I get sent by myself up to Kayara, and I rock up there and I see my old buddy, and it's one of the days where that black smoke is just flooding through the base because the winds are coming from the east. And he's a smoker, right? So you had to wear your gas mask when you were outside. So, you see the tag guys wearing their black respirator gas mask that we had for, not only for tag, but obviously for in Iraq because there could be a chemical attack. So, from the Saddam area where, allegedly he had chemical weapons. We just want some cheap oil. We've talked about that, and that's fine. So I see old mate, when I go to meet him, my plane lands, I get out, and I'm like, oh, what's going on, cunt? And this dude is smoking through his gas mask. So he's taking his gas mask off his face to suck down a fucking lung lolly, and then exhales back into his gas mask. It was kind of fucked up. I was like, what is worse for you, this black smoke or the fact that you're smoking inside a gas mask? But yeah, so he was at the end of his 6-month deployment. He wasn't really having a bar of it. He was not that keen. He was kind of fucking over it and just wanted to go home. And that's fair enough because the way that he was living was pretty fucking rough. But by the time I got out to Kayara, there was no one really left there. The place was kind of a desert because what the fuck's going on? Well, about 80 kilometers to the north is Mosul, and everyone that was at Kayara that had fought through Kayara and cleared that airbase was now up in Mosul. Everyone had pushed north, so I was kind of chasing my tail, trying to catch up to the fight as quick as I could, knowing that I had the skills and the background knowledge of Iraq and how this war kind of started and what, my job was in Iraq. I knew what I was fucking doing, and I'm just trying to get up to the fight, but I kept being sent very well rear of the lines. And from my personal opinion, I think that's because the people in between rotation 1 and rotation 6 were lazy cunts. There was a lot of my friends that got deployed that really just wanted trip money. They just wanted to earn, an extra 50, 60 grand cash tax free on top of their salary for that 6 months to sit in their tent and read a fucking Kindle. But I just wanted to see cunts die. So I'm trying my fastest and best to get up to the fight. But everyone's like, Scotia, just chill, man. You can get paid the same amount of money just sitting in your tent and reading a book all day and getting some podcasts fucking listened to. I'm like, fuck that noise. At this point in time, I didn't even know what a podcast was. I'm still just running a fucking old MP3 player, that same iPod with fucking Miley Cyrus Party in the USA on it. So I'm trying my best to get up there. So I request an airfare, a flight, a little cheeky government flight. I forget what it's called, but these tiny little planes, little government contractors might run them. And I got a flight up to a little place called Erbil, Kurdistan. So to get closer to Mosul, I actually had to go further north and further out to the east to Erbil. so that I could get into Mosul actual, because I'd found out that we had a team of our dudes from a Special Forces advisory team actually operating on the eastern side of Mosul. So there was about 10 dudes there that had only recently just got there, and they're still trying to find their feet, work out what they're doing, what's going on. I'm reading, sit reps and intelligence reports of what's happening on the eastern side of Mosul, but it's all just kind of fucking, all smoke and mirrors. They could just be doing literally nothing, or they could be doing awesome fucking work out there. I don't know. So I go and book our little flight, and I land in Erbil. And I get to Erbil, and I'm like, this is fucking odd. So this is only about 2 hours drive to the west is Mosul, right? Where the Islamic State Caliphate headquarters is. Where there's fucking tens of thousands of ISIS fighters that have spent years digging in and retrofitting this city to be the next fucking World War. World War III is about to kick off in Mosul. And I'm 2 hours drive to the west in a shisha bar drinking. And it's the fucking weirdest place. It's like, Kurdistan is like, you're in an Arab country, but there's not many Arab looking people. There's a lot of Russians and like Eastern European people that run stores there. There's nightclubs. You can ramp it. I went to a bar with a few of the boys, which I won't name. And I'm drinking, I'm having shisha, because I got told it's a couple of days before we can get you into Mosul, so just go chill. And I got ambushed in the mess. It's the first time I've been ambushed since fucking being in Afghanistan several years prior by just random American military dudes, because it's the first time that they'd seen an Aussie in Kurdistan. And I walked through the DFAC, or the mess, wearing my Aussie IR patches, and cunts just swarmed me and just begging for a patch trade. I'm like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. Now that I'm away from Baghdad, the last thing I want to do is wear issued uniform. I'm just going back to wearing fucking CrossFit t-shirts and fucking multicam pants with Merrills and Solomons. That's what we fucking do. We didn't fucking do selection to wear issued boots, cunt. Write that one down. So I'm just chilling in fucking Kurdistan, just finding it very odd that I'm reading the threat briefs for Mosul that the boys are getting hit with V-bids, drones, suicide bombers, chemical attacks, artillery pieces every fucking day over there. And it's a 2 hours drive from here. It's like, driving from fucking Holsworthy to the Blue Mountains or something, which isn't far. You can almost kind of see it. If you're doing a jump, a jump skydiving over Richmond, you can see Sydney. And you double that distance and you can get hit with a chemical artillery piece. So I was finding it kind of really odd that I was going over there to fight in a war, but in where I was sitting right now at a shisha bar drinking that fucking weird homemade vodka that fucking Eastern Europeans drink, ouzo or some shit. It was just fucking strange. So I'm kind of drunk as well, and maybe that's probably why it felt strange. Don't drink on ops, boys. And then I get the tap that, yep, Skojo, tomorrow you're actually going into Mosul actual. We've got a convoy for you, and you're going to meet up with these 2 American Army airborne soldiers at this location at this time. And then they're going to drive you halfway. You're going to hit a river, and at that river junction, you're going to jump into a convoy full of armed airborne with MRAP dudes, and they're going to drive you into Eastern Mosul actual so that you can work and live in your new location for a 1-week trial to see if you are useful over there or if it's just a waste of time and you're another mouth to feed. I'm like, no dramas, boys. Let's fucking do it. So I rock up to this place the next day with my bag and my pack ready to rumble. And the only thing that's there is a green coaster bus. And, them like 20-seater little fucking buses that you have on military bases, or you might hire one for your footy trip going away, and the floors are kind of all plastic and the seats are all plasticky so that you can just hose the vomit off. Well, that's what rocked up. And the 2 dudes, the driver and his fucking coie in the front of the fucking vehicle, both just had their M4s sitting on that little dashboard of the coaster up at the front window. And they're like, hey man, you fucking Lance Corporal Jones, we're heading to Bartala, bro. You coming with us? And I'm like, I guess so. So I fucking had my weapon just at fucking the loaded condition. I wasn't too concerned, but the moment that they fucking turned around and I realized that I'm driving towards Mosul through the streets of Kurdistan in a fucking green coaster with two Americans in their camouflage uniform with, I think they were wearing like chest plate body armor, but no helmets or anything. And I was just like, what the fuck? This is sketchy as fuck. So I hopped in the back of the coaster and very quietly, like I'm on a fucking recon course or a fucking SR patrol or something, just slowly racking my weapon really quietly and then driving that fucking charging handle home and hitting the bolt assist really subtly and quietly so that they didn't realize I'm actioning up my weapon in the back because I was kind of a bit fucking sketched out by this. We're going to a place, we're driving through the streets where there's fucking ISIS had held recently. And there's dead bodies on the side of the road. There's IEDs everywhere. I'm in a green coaster with just two dudes with zero air support. What the fuck else am I meant to think? So I'm actioning myself up. But, you know, I've recently seen videos of ISIS setting people on fire in cages, drowning people in pools, and firing fucking RPGs at carfuls full of people handcuffed to the fucking steering wheel. Yeah, I'm not too keen on that. So I action up my weapon and I'm like, all right, job's on. And if you're on my Snapchat back in 2016, hooly dooly, the Snapchats from that drive were fucking epic, iconic, and a lot of people still talk about them. Man, what a wild ride. And then we're driving and it's the fucking dirtiest fucking place I've ever seen in my life. I'm driving, just looking at the side of the road. There was just rubbish fucking everywhere. And the further that we drove, the more rural it got and the more sketchy it was. But there were actually Iraqi police and army checkpoints probably once every kilometer. And all the IDP camps, which is isolated or dislocated personnel, basically women and children or the coward, weak men that didn't fight for their country and fled, were all in those like UN camps. And I got a photo of one, maybe I'll chuck it up. It's like, as far as the eye can see, there is just those white tents. And that's all the citizens and residents of the areas that we're driving through that had been bombed out because the Iraqi counterterrorism service guys and our JTACs and fighters and whatnot had to drop bombs on every one of those fucking houses where I was driving through. Every house had been fucking leveled. Like every house that I'm looking at through the window had a fucking bomb through its roof and you fucking skylight in the roof and it was fucking pancaked. So ISIS were naturally, it wasn't their houses, they were just fighting out of them. That cunt might have come from Tunisia or Syria or Saudi Arabia, fucking France, wherever. And he's just fighting out of this random person's house. So that person has to flee and go to an IDP camp. And then we drop a bomb on that ISIS fighter's head and kill him and all his mates shooting at the Iraqi counterterrorism service. But we've also just ruined old mate's house. So, yeah, it puts him in a bit of a pickle. But maybe if you didn't let these fucking cunts called ISIS actually just take over your country without any kind of fuss, you wouldn't be in this predicament now, would you, cunt? So, if it happened here in Australia, do you think like if, let's say, I don't know, the bikies or, some fucking cult out west decides to take over the country and they're spreading from fucking Bathurst through Orange and Armidale and they're about to go and take over Brisbane and Canberra and Sydney, do you think that we're just going to let that happen and go, oh, fuck, man, these cunts are taking over. Damn, I guess it's Sharia law now. Fuck no. Even if I don't have a firearms license or a weapon, I'm going to grab a fucking pickaxe and make some homemade weapons and stab some cunts in the fucking throat because they're not fucking going to take over and change our way of life and put us in a position where our family home gets a bomb dropped on it because I've fled to an IDP camp and now you've got some fucking bikie from Orange that's taken over my house and we had to kill, and the fucking some country from the other side of the world that's come to save us has just dropped a bomb on our house. So these stupid cunts in the IDP camps are looking at me like with like fucking like they sucked on a lemon, like, hey, you fucking white cunts fucking blew up my house. And I'm looking at him like, I wish I could speak Arabic fluently enough to be like, why didn't you fight for your country? You put yourself in this position, you weak fucking dog. Bury your head in the dirt over there. You are less than a man, cunt. So we're driving down the highway and we get about an hour into the journey and we meet up with a whole bunch of... we cross the border from Kurdistan into Iraq, which was actually a decent kind of border crossing. There's a lot of people there and we just kind of breezed through. And I get to the Iraq side and yeah, there was about 3 or 4 MRAPs there with a whole bunch of fucking... Now, these dudes were tooled up. These dudes have got 50 cows, Mark 19s. They're fully tooled up. And I was like, okay, now it's getting serious. Everyone had fully ballistic protection on, eyes, helmets. Everyone was like, you could see the dudes were on edge. And I was like, okay, now I understand. I'm getting in the fight now. This is fucking legit. So I take out my bags from the green fucking coaster, high five and fucking bum tap these 2 American dudes who are going back to fucking hit the shisha bar in Erbil. And I hop in the MRAPs and it's time to fucking party. So I hop in the MRAPs and it's about an hour left in the trip and the mood had completely changed. You know, dudes are on edge, dudes are scanning their arcs. It was proper driving into Mosul actual, and this is exactly what I wanted. And I guess we'll have to leave it there because I think YouTube told me if I go over more than an hour, I get in the shit and they won't post my stuff anymore. I'm surprised that all these platforms are still posting these podcasts. Although, you know, there should be nothing wrong with spinning a couple of worries for the boys. Yeah, I don't know. Apparently a lot of people report them because they don't want to hear me talk shit about, let's say, a male in an IDP camp. They'd rather just not tell those stories and act like the world's a big happy place and that, you know, the white people that had to fly to the other side of the world to save all these people in their houses and get their country back for them are the bad guys. So go figure. On next week's episode, we'll talk more about Mosul and what happened when I arrived in the town called Bartala, and when was the first time I saw an ISIS fighter get turned into human dog food. So it's been an absolute pleasure, cunts. I'm really looking forward to telling you more about Mosul. We haven't even really arrived in the city of Mosul yet, but fuck, it was a fun time when I got there. So fucking take a load off, cunts, put your feet up, and I'll fucking see you cunts next year. Go back and listen to that intro one more time. Love yous. Hooroo, toodles, ta-da, bye.